Hey everybody, welcome to Matt's Metal Show. Today we're going to be talking about the one, the only Gary Moore. Ooh, my voice is shit today. Woo! Middle of May. Got the 18th today, right? Woo! Kind of sunny outside. It wasn't earlier. It was cloudy. This fucking weather's up and down. California, we're going to bitch about it, right? 4 days ago it was 100 degrees, or it was like 90 something. Last 2 days it's been about 70. In the morning it's like 50. Woo! Everybody gets sick because fucking weather changes on a daily basis. I've been thinking about doing Gary Moore for a long time, man. He's got such a huge fucking glorious catalog of amazing albums. I'm going to stick with Gary Moore. Gary Moore is the solo artist. Gary Moore started out in the really maybe late 60s, early 70s. I know he was born in Belfast, Ireland. And then he moved to Dublin. And when he moved to Dublin, he joined this, it was like a blues rock band. Because in 1970, that was like Peter Green, Fleetwood Mac kind of stuff. You know, John Mayall, Blues Breakers, you know. Everybody in England and, you know, the UK was kind of into that shit. And so he joined this band called Skid Row. He actually sold the rights to the name Skid Row to the American band Skid Row. I think it was for like 85 grand or some shit like that, or 35 grand. It wasn't a lot of money. Gary Moore was in Skid Row for a couple of years, put out a couple of albums. It was kind of bluesy, kind of weird. I just listened to them the other day. They're pretty fun. Kind of all over the place. And then Gary was asked to join Thin Lizzy for a little bit because Eric Bell wasn't feeling well or some shit like that. His good friend and buddy Phil Lynott from Thin Lizzy was, I believe, in Skid Row before moving on into Thin Lizzy. So he did that, and then that lasted for about a year. And then 1973, he came out with the Gary Moore Band, and they came out with one album. It was called Grinding Stone, The Grinding Stone. It didn't last long. And, you know, he would do stints in Coliseum 2, not Coliseum 1, but Coliseum 2. Gary was all over the place. So he started kind of bluesy rocker. If you listen to Grinding Stone, I just listened to it this morning. It's a fucking amazing album, but it's all over the place. Just like kind of like with Skid Row was mostly bluesy, kind of bluesy rock. They did have some elements of prog and kind of weird shit. They would just bust off into a tangent. When you listen to Grinding Stone, there's some fucking great songs on there, and I hadn't listened to that a bunch. It opens up with the instrumental Grinding Stone, and then it goes into Time to Heal, which is really a fucking cool song. It's weird because the Gary Moore Band was just three guys, and boom, 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 boom. Who were those three guys? Let's look it up real quick. The three guys was Gary Moore on lead guitar and vocals, John Curtis on bass, and Pierce Kelly on drums and percussion. But they had a guy named Jan Skelhas, and he was keyboard player, but he was like a additional musician or guest musician on this. And it's funny because like one of the songs is called The Energy Dance, about like 2.5 minutes long. It's totally him. I don't even think there's not very much guitar on it. It's just like this grand opus of this cool keyboard player. I mean, he actually fucking rips it up. And then they go into this 17-minute song Spirit, which sounds a lot like Return to Forever. It's really fucking out there, but it's really fucking cool. And then Boogie My Way Back Home. Gary Moore Band. Didn't last long. Gary ended up going to... What, Coliseum 2? Yeah. Coliseum 2. He didn't make another solo album until 1978, 5 years later, so... Cool, right? Gary Moore, man. He's one of those mystical guitar players that should have been the biggest guitar player in the fucking world. He should have, man. This guy was fucking phenomenal. Bit of a hard guy to work with. Even Gary said he was a hard guy to work with. He was a perfectionist. There's one story where he came off stage and I think it was Brian Downey, the drummer for fucking Thin Lizzy, who, you know, these guys worked together a lot over the years and stuff. He was like, dude, that was a great show, man. And Gary Moore was like, it was shit. He was like, I played like shit. You're like, okay. He was a bit of a reactionary, right? No. Over the years, he came out with some phenomenal albums. I can remember my first taste of Gary Moore. It had to come from George, my buddy George, because George is 3 years older than me. He's my older sister's age. So George was into stuff that I, as a young lad, wouldn't have even known about. And I want to say my first intro to Gary Moore was either Corridors of Power or Victims of the Future, like 82 or 83. I remember George had this fucking, you know, George, like all of us, you know, me a little later, but George was in the Columbia Record Tape Club. So he had like a million fucking cassettes. The thing with George, though, is he was actually paying for them. When I die and I get judged, you know, that's going to be on my fucking... Oh, hey, Matt, remember that in 1985 when you bought like 12 fucking albums, you never paid for them? You're going to hell. But George's mom, she actually paid for all these, but he had a fuck ton of cassette tapes, and I remember he used to give me like a bunch of cassette tapes here and there, and I remember one of the ones he gave me was Gary Moore. I want to say it was Victims of the Future from 83. And that was my kind of first intro into Gary Moore, and I remember listening to that album going, oh, these are some fucking cool songs, you know, there's some good stuff on here. It had Murder in the Skies. Murder in the Skies. It had Empty Rooms on it, which would come out a little later on one of my favorite albums. And I want to say like about 2 years ahead. Go forward 2 years to 1985. Run for Cover came out, and that was the album that I really fell in love with Gary Moore. Because, dude, I fucking loved that album. I remember I had it on vinyl, and, dude, I played the fuck out of that album. Because it had Phil Lynott on it. Fucking Glenn Hughes was on it. And there were some songs on there like Military Man. Oh, my God. I fucking loved that fucking song. It was so cool. And Out in the Fields. It was all about, like, Ireland and, like, dying. Mama, take a look at your boy. He's a military man. Mama, take a look at your boy. He's dying. Remember seeing the video where they're all wearing, like, the red soldier outfits? Phil and fucking Gary. Oh, yeah. That was a fucking awesome album. And I remember, like, and then kind of going back, listening to Corridors of Power. And then it wasn't until, like, probably around that time, or maybe a little later, I discovered, like, Dirty Fingers. And then after that, you know, I would keep up with him for a bit. especially in my teenage years when I was in high school. So I remember, like, when Wild Frontier came out in '87, I got that because I fucking loved the song Over the Hills and Far Away. Something with me and Irish music, I fucking love Irish music when they start busting out the dulcimer and the fucking fiddle and shit. It's fucking awesome. That's why I love listening to, like, Flogging Molly or fucking Black 47 or, you know, the Progs. I love fucking listening to that fucking Celtic fucking feel, fucking Irish music. It's fucking awesome. Wild Frontier had Bob Daisley on it, and you know, that was cool. And it had fucking what's his name? That fucking Neil Carter. Gary and Neil Carter got like really tight, especially like from like Run for Cover on into like After the War. They were like, that was his boy, you know, Neil Carter, keyboard player. The only thing about Wild Frontier is like it didn't have a drummer. It was a fucking drum machine. So like I remember I had a lot of fondness for that album, but and then going back like the last couple of days, listening to a bunch of Gary Moore, that album kind of wanes for me a little bit. I love fucking Danny Boy, and I love fucking Over the Hills and Far Away. But a lot of that stuff in the middle is really poppy and really kind of. I mean, you could so tell that it's fucking drum machine. It's kind of. I don't know why they made that decision to just go. Dude, we'll just put a drum machine on this album. Okay. Well, the next album, I believe you had Cozy Powell on it. So what? Cozy was busy apparently. Bob Daisley from Ozzy played a lot with with Gary. He played on Run for Cover. He played on Victims of the Future. He played on Wild Frontier. He played on After the War. I know he played on like Still Got the Blues. That was when Gary was kind of doing a revolving door of musicians for each song and stuff. So Gary Moore, he comes out. He's kind of this bluesy rocker guy. Then he does some little stuff with Thin Lizzy. I think he recorded one track off the Nightlife album, right, with Gary Moore, and then he kind of goes back into his own band. Then he goes and goes into Coliseum 2 with Don Airey and who's the bass player, Neil Murray. And they come out with Strange New Flesh. And they actually had a singer, and then the singer got fired, and then they came out with two more albums, Electric Savage and War Dance, which was more just kind of straight up prog kind of. And that's a trip, man, because you listen to this arc of Gary Moore, and you're listening to like Skid Row, and then you're listening to the Gary Moore Band, and then all of a sudden you're into like Coliseum, which is like fucking sounds like fucking Romantic Warrior from fucking Return to Forever. So you're like, fuck, dude, what can this guy not play? You know, he can play fucking rock tunes, and he can play fucking blues, and he can play fucking fusion and fucking jazz and shit, and you're just like, who the fuck is this guy? So eventually he finds his way back. Boom, boom, boom. And he comes out with this solo album, and it's called Back on the Streets. And Brian Downey, drummer of Thin Lizzy, and Phil Lynott from Thin Lizzy, singer, bass player. They joined him on this album, and that's kind of a trippy album. It's got some rock shit on it, and then it has some shit that's just like out there. You know, it's got like Back on the Streets. It's just basically a rock song. It's just fucking back on the streets, you know, and Gary singing. It's fucking great. And then it goes into shit like Flight of the Snow Moose, or What Would You Rather Be, or a Wasp. It has Parisian Walkways. I don't know why it wasn't called Parisian Walkways, but it's Parisian Walkways, which is probably the biggest song Gary Moore ever did. He always included it in his sets. I'm not a huge fucking fan of that song. I don't know why. I know there's people out there that are going to be like, what? You don't like Piercing Walkways by Gary Moore and Phil Lydon? What? It's not one of my, it's a great song, but it's not one of my favorite songs. It's really not. I mean, I'll put it on and listen to it and be like, oh, this is cool. But I'm not like, over the hills and far away. I'm not fucking, ooh. Oh, Jesus. Then Yngwie ripped it off on, like, what, Facing the Animal? He just fucking ripped that rip off. Yeah. Yngwie, thief. Anyways, so Gary Moore has 18 albums. Okay? He started Skid Row. I didn't include those. I didn't include the Gary Moore Band. I didn't include the Coliseum 2. I wanted to kind of stick with Gary. Just Gary. I didn't include the fucking amazing Thin Lizzy albums, for my favorite Thin Lizzy albums, Black Rose. I didn't. I just included, like, Gary Moore's solo albums. So there's 18 of them. Eventually, Gary Moore, like in 1990, he came out with Still Got the Blues, and Gary went straight blues for a lot of years. And he kind of lost my interest. I will tell you, though, revisiting those albums, because I've heard them all. I've heard everything he's done. I pretty much have everything that Gary was on, except for the little one-off stuff. I know he played on the Greg Lake album. Played Nuclear Assault on the Great Lake album. Or Nuclear Attack. Nuclear Assault. Like he's fucking doing death metal. He could have, though. Gary Moore could have played death metal. He could have played fucking anything. Gary Moore was fucking amazing. A lot of people called him a fucking virtuoso. He fucking was. And he had a fucking great voice. That was the other thing. It's like he's a fucking phenomenal guitar player, can play any fucking genre, and then on top of that, he's a fucking great fucking singer. So, wow. Along the way, he had a bunch of fucking just stellar musicians in his pocket helping him out, which is great. I still don't understand Wild Frontier, why the fuck you couldn't. I mean, he had Tommy Aldridge, he had fucking Brian Downey, you know? I just don't understand. Like, he had Cozy Powell at one point. I mean, there's a bunch of drummers that he fucking knew. Like, hello, can you play on my album? You know? So anyways, there's 18 studio albums. And we're going to go over that list in my order. From best to worst, right? Or my favorite to my least favorite. No right answer, no wrong answer. If you just go out today and listen to a fucking Gary Moore song, just a song, I did my job, okay? Gary played with Cozy Powell on his solo albums. He played on Greg Lake's solo album. He played with Thin Lizzy. He played with fucking G-Force, with fucking Bruce Baker and more. He played on the Scars album. There's a ton of shit that he did. I have a live concert where it's him and Mick Jagger. It's We Want More Jagger. People in the UK recognize Gary Moore as being fucking amazing. People here in America, not so much. Now, I know there's those guys out there like, you know, Pete Pardo and Butch Jones. Butch Jones. He's so fucking annoying. I'm sorry. Butch, you're fucking annoying. You're always sitting there at the bottom, fucking... I got my scotch and I'm being a fucking asshole to Butch Jones. Cozy fucking Powell. I love Cozy Powell though, but he's not like my favorite drummer of all time. So, anyways, let's get back to what we're talking about. We're gonna go over these albums from my least favorite to my favorite. You know the drill. This is gonna be long because this is fucking amazing. Let's fucking start it off. Number 18. It's going to be Dark Days in Paradise from 1997. Dark Days in Paradise. Have you guys listened to this fucking album? So, I guess, okay, so the rock thing wasn't working. At least in America it wasn't. And I'm sure Gary was frustrated with that because, you know, as a UK act, if you don't make it in America, you're kind of a failure. I mean, you know, if you're charting in the UK and selling albums in the UK, fucking great. But the thing is, with the UK, it's like you sell 60,000 albums. Like, the population density is not what it is in America, especially with the record buying public. And so here in America, like, if you have a platinum fucking album, that's 1 million fucking albums sold. He wasn't fucking getting anywhere. He was doing these rock albums, and later on, he had a lot of disdain for these rock albums. He would say stuff like, oh, that was my silly attempt at rock, you know. So he went back to what he knew and what he loved. He went back to the blues. And actually, that was his most successful album in 1990 was Still Got the Blues. It actually went gold in America, so holy shit. Gary had some success in America, and then he just continued on with the blues albums, and nothing after that really did shit. Because, you know, at the time, it's like 1990. You're not on MTV. Grunge is on the horizon. People love blues. You know, I remember as a kid, you know, we all knew who B.B. King was. Albert Collins. We all knew these guys, you know. But they weren't like, I wasn't going out buying B.B. King albums. I wasn't. Even though B.B. King is amazing. Was amazing. So he did the blues for a couple of years, and then he decided, let's go in another direction. And so he kind of, it's not like electronic dance music. It's not that far out of the fucking spectrum, but it's very electronic. It's got some weird fucking beats and shit. Dark Days in Paradise. I listened to it last night and I was mystified. I don't think I had ever listened to that album in its entirety. It's very heavy. There's a lot of bass in it, but it's really like a bummer. Opens up with One Good Reason, Cold Wind Blows, I Have Found My Love in You. So it's like, he's not doing full on blues. He's doing this electronic kind of, it's not bad, but it's not something that I want to pop on. It was kind of depressing. It was kind of dragging. It was interesting. I mean, Gary's still a phenomenal player, so whatever he touches, it's still good. But it was a fucking bit of a weird turn. I don't think anybody understood it. It wasn't successful, so. Dark Days in Paradise, for sure. I mean, an apt title to that album, right? Number 17, A Different Beat, which was from 1999. It's a follow-up album to that album. And the same thing, man. It's a little electronic. It's got some weird shit on it. He does do a Jimi Hendrix cover of Fire, which is pretty fucking cool. He does a song called Surrender. It's cool. House Full of Blues. Fat Boy. It just sounds electronic. You know, and you're just kind of mystified as like, what exactly is this supposed to be? So, if you're going straight on blues, I get it. If you're going straight on rock, I get it. If you're going pop, I get it. But like when you go into this where it's, I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to think of it. It's confusing and it's not amazing. So that's number 17, A Different Beat. Number 16 is a posthumous album that came out last year in April. It's called How Blue Can You Get? It's a blues album. I haven't had a lot of time with it. It's a blues album. I listened to it yesterday. Like, it's cool. There's some good songs on there, but I'm not, like, going, oh my god, this is so fucking amazing. I just am not a huge fucking fan of the blues. And so when Gary went full on, straight on bluesing, he kind of fucking lost me. Boom, boom, boom. What did it say? It started off with I'm Sure Down. Sounded kind of live because guys counted out 1, 2, 3, stepping out. In My Dreams is cool. I don't know. I don't know when it was recorded. There's not a lot of information on this. Obviously, it's 10 years after Gary died, so it's hard to tell, but it's a blues album. It's cool. The guys on it are solid and tight, and it's very bluesy, so not really my cup of tea. That's number 16. How Blue Can You Get? From 2021, 10 years after Gary passed away. So, number 15, I'm going to go As Close As You Get. And the reason why, this is kind of low. The production on this album is very stark to me. I don't know. It's really... If the Devil Made Whiskey is the opening track, I had a poem. Checking up on my baby. It's a bluesy blues album. It's kind of like, the problem is like, after all these blues albums, you're just like, meh. Who played on this? Let's see. Brian Downey played drums on it. Yeah. He played the dobro on Sundown. I did not know that. Gary Moore played the vobro, the dobro. Had Pete Race on bass, Vic Martin on keyboards, and Mark Feltham on harmonica on Hard Times and Checking Up on My Baby. Yeah, Brian Downey, though, from Thin Lizzy, played drums on this entire album. They do a Chuck Berry song, 30 Days. They do some Sonny Boy Williamson, Eyesight to the Blind, John Mayall. It's a cool album. It's got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 original tracks and 6 cover tunes. It's a later era Gary Moore blues album. The problem with blues albums is like, I will tell you, when I heard Still Got the Blues was fresh and it was like, wow, this is fucking really good. By the time you get down the list of blues album after blues album after blues album, it kind of gets tired for me, at least. So, but if you're a Gary Moore fan and you fucking love his blues shit, fuck yeah. But I was a rocker kid and I like this rock shit, So there's the way it is. Number 15 was Close As You Get from 2007. Number 14, I'm going to go Blues for Greenie. Okay, so Greenie is a 1959 Gibson Les Paul with a inverted pickup in the top, in the neck pickup. He bought it from Peter Green for like $10, and probably a bag of blow. And he had it forever. That was Gary Moore's guitar forever. And then he started using like red Strats. He played this as like Explorer type guitar. I can't remember. He played some Paul Reed Smiths too. But Greenie was the guitar like he was really well known for. And Peter Green was, and Gary Moore actually broke it. It was actually in the trunk of his car once, and he got in a car accident and it broke it. He had to get it repaired. But we all know now Kirk Hammett owns Greenie. He paid like $2 million for it or some shit like that. Gary Moore sold it like in, I want to say, he sold it in like what? Bum, bum, bum. 1959 Gibson Les Paul. Bum, bum, bum. He sold it in 2006 for somewhere between $750 and $1.2 million. I guess Gary needed some bread in 2006, so he was like, here, I'll sell Greenie. And he fucking sold Greenie. So it was in a private collector for a while. And then it finally came up, and then Kirk Hammett bought it for reported less than $2 million. That's why Kirk Hammett like sucks this guitar's dick, and he's always, he even took it out on tour. Look, I'm playing a fucking $2 million guitar. It's got the fucking marks on it from fucking Peter Green and from fucking Gary Moore. So, because you gotta be a fucking huge Gary Moore fan to shell out $2 million for a guitar. But anyways, Blues for Greenie was an album of covers, all old Fleetwood Mac stuff. I mean, there's some covers of covers actually, but it's all Fleetwood Mac, Peter Green era. I wish he would have done Green Manalishi with the two-pronged crown, but he did not. It's a bunch of fucking Peter Green covers. It's not fucking exciting for me. That's why it's number 14 on the list. Dude, let me pull up the track list real quick here. If You Be My Baby, Long Gray Mare, Merry-Go-Round. Ooh, I Loved Another Woman. Showbiz Blues the same way. The Supernatural, Driftin'. Like, it's a cool album, but it's like a blues Peter Green cover album. It's not that exciting to me, so it's number 14. And that was Blues for Greenie from 1995. Number 13, Old New Ballad Blues from 2006. Once again, we're right in the neck of Gary's blues era from 1990 into the 2000s. It's a cool album. I don't play it a lot. I listened to it once in a blue moon. Blue moon. Done Something Wrong. All Your Love 2006. That's the 2000. And then the Midnight Blues 2006. Same thing here. A couple of Gary Moore songs. A couple of cover tunes. Or like half and half, really. So, nothing on here stands out and makes me go, fuck yeah! Dude, I love that album. But still, dude, when you listen to any of these albums, and you listen to Gary's play, now, some of these albums later on, dude, the tone that he gets and shit is fucking holy fuck. That's probably why I Still Got the Blues the most, because, dude, his tone on that fucking album is just fucking, smashes you in the face, man. It's fucking amazing. So, a lot of those earlier albums, they didn't get a lot of production value. Martin Birch produced the fucking Grinding Stone album, and it sounds pretty fucking good. But some of those ones in the early to middle 80s, when he was with Jet Records, and they were fucking him left and right, yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah, number 13 was Old New Ballads Blues from 2006. Number 12, I'm going to go Back to the Blues from 2001. Back to the Blues. Yep. This is that album where those previous two albums, Dark Days in Paradise and A Different Beat, they didn't do well. So Gary went back to the blues. He's like, oh, fuck, I'm going to go back to the blues. My favorite song on that album is A Cold Black Night, or Cold Black Night. That's a fucking cool song. Stormy Monday's cool. I like Picture of the Moon. On mine, it has a bunch of bonus tracks, which is weird because I looked it up and I couldn't find any bonus tracks on it. But my fucking copy has 15 tracks, and it includes the rendition of Fire from Jimi Hendrix that was on the previous album. So I don't know what the fuck this is or where I got it, but Back to the Blues. He just went back to the blues. He was like, you know what, that world beat shit didn't work. Fuck it, I'm going back to the blues. So he's laying on a train station on the cover, playing his guitar, and fucking hey, man. He went back to the blues. The title track's alright. It's not amazing. So Back to the Blues 2001, that was number 12. Number 11, I'm going to go Power of the Blues from 2004. I actually like this album a little bit more. It had a good tone to it. It had, the production was a little better than some of the other ones. It starts out with Power of the Blues. It's a fucking cool song. I like Tell Me Woman is a fucking cool song. He does a Otis Rush cover, and you'll recognize it. It's called I Can't Quit You, Baby. And, Led Zeppelin put it on their first album, right? It's an Otis Rush song. I was kind of listening to the Zeppelin version and his version, and, I really like the old-timey tone that Jimmy Page got, on their version. But Gary comes out, and he's like Wall of Sound, and he's fucking just wailing, and he's singing it. It's fucking awesome. The cover that he does, it's from a Howlin' Wolf song. Like a jet flying over my fucking house. It's called Evil. That's really fucking good. And then the very last track on the album is called Torn Inside, and that's a fucking cool song. There's a lot of cool songs on this. He does a Percy Mayfield cover, Memory. But I like this album a little bit more than the ones that came after it on the list. Power of the Blues, man, from 2004. Had some sparks to it, man. That was number 11, right? Yeah. Number 10. Number 10, we're going to go After Hours from 1992. This is a fucking good album. For a blues album to, strike me, I'm like, oh. Typically, that would not happen. Typically, I would not, unless it's Stevie Ray Vaughan, who I love Stevie Ray Vaughan, but even after a while, Stevie Ray Vaughan kind of drags on me a little bit. I'm sorry, but, I can listen to blues in doses, but then I need something to pick me up because, otherwise, you end up sitting on the porch strumming the guitar, slitting your fucking wrists. That's what the blues is all about, right? About the pain, man. The pain of the blues. It's funny when you listen to all these albums in a row and you pick out the same fucking riff, the blues riff, done 100 fucking times. Anyways, After Hours, fucking dig this album. It's number fucking 10. But don't bump bone. Who played on After Hours? 1992. Let's check it out. This is a follow-up to Still Got the Blues. So we got Gary Moore, we got Will Lee, Bob Daisley, Andy Pyle, and Johnny B. Gaden on bass. There's a ton of people playing on this. Graham Walker and Anton Fig played on drums. He even had Anton Fig on here. He couldn't have called him to fucking... I think at one point he had Eric Singer, too. Eric Singer played on the tour of Wild Frontier. Then he went and joined Badlands. But, Eric Singer couldn't have played on the fucking album? Or he was too mixed up in the Black Sabbath stuff at that point. I'm not sure. But Tommy Erie on keyboards, or Irie. Ear. Yeah. This album starts off with Cold Day in Hell, which is a great fucking song. It's got Don't Lie to Me, I Get Evil, which is a great fucking bluesy, fucking awesome song. Since I Met You, Baby, it's with BB King and to listen to Gary, and there's videos of it on YouTube. You can fucking watch it. It's fucking awesome. First of all, to hear Gary and BB like trade off licks with each other, and then they're trading off vocals with each other, it's fucking awesome. I love that fucking song. Only Fool in Town is fucking good. The blues is all right, and that's got Albert Collins on it playing guitar. It's fucking genius. The Hurt Inside is fucking good, and then Nothing's the Same, the last song on the album. This is a really fucking strong album. Just like its predecessor, it's a really fucking strong album. Definitely fucking good. Number 9. Boom, boom, boom. Number 9 is going to be 2008. It's going to be Bad For You, Baby. The final Gary Moore album while he was alive. Or the final Gary Moore solo album. I don't know. Did he do an album after this? I don't know. There's a ton of live shit, which I have a bunch. We'll talk about it. I really like the fucking tone on Bad For You, Baby. And that's kind of what differentiates some of these albums for me is production. They're all blues, so what sounds best to me, After Hours, Bad For You, Baby, and Still Got the Blues, those are, to me, 3 of the better produced albums. I'll probably in Power Blues, too. The production on them is great. This album had Gary on vocals, guitar, and harmonica. It had Vic Martin on keyboards, it had Pete Reese on bass, and Sam Kelly on drums. So, like, this was kind of sticking with the same guys as much as he could at that point. We know Gary's band, just like Michael Schenker, just like any fucking great guitar player. Tony Iommi, Richie Blackmore, to name, Yngwie, so it's like a revolving door of fucking cast members and them, Hard to work with, perhaps. It opens up with Bad For You, Baby. It's got Down the Line. It's got Umbrella Man. This album opens up like with 3 bangers in a row. Walking Through the Park's fucking cool song. Preacher Man Blues is a fucking cool song. Mojo Boogie. This is a fucking cool album for being the blues. And like I said, man, I'm not full on into the fucking blues. I'm not. I'll pop on John Mayall's Blues Breakers and check it out and be like, cool. I'll listen to Old Cream. I'll listen to Eric Clapton, even though I fucking hate him. I'll listen to him. He's got some cool fucking songs. But when you just slather the blues over everything, my interest kind of fades away. I'll pop on Robert Johnson. I got all this shit. Listen to him. Down to the crossroads, gonna sell my soul to the devil. Steve, coked out, crazy Stevie Ray Vaughan, and then straight, clean Stevie Ray Vaughan. I'll listen to either. I do like the coked out version a little bit more. Because, dude, when he was coked out, he was fucking sweating balls. And he was like, you watch the live shit where you could tell, like, Stevie was coked out of his fucking skull. He was playing some great shit. We're going to go number 9. Oh, that was number 9. Duh. Number 9, Bad For You, Baby from 2008. The final Gary Moore album. Gary Moore died in his sleep in 2011 on February 6th, I believe. Let me check my dates here. Yep. I was correct. He was on vacation with his girlfriend. And he fucking had a heart attack in his sleep and fucking died. At this point, Gary was drinking kind of heavily. He was no spring chicken, but, he wasn't a fucking old man either, so. Hey, man, When you're playing the blues. When he was 58. He's fucking 5.5 years older than me. When he died. I mean, he was born in 52. Bad for you, baby. Kind of a good way to go out, I guess, you know. Number 8, I'm going to go that album with no fucking real drums on it. I'm going to go Wild Frontier. And it's funny because, like, on paper, I should love Wild Frontier because that string of albums that leads up to and goes past it, I fucking love. But I fucking popped it on and gave it a thorough listen the other day. And, like, with the exception, like I said, of Over the Hills and Far Away, which is one of my absolute favorite fucking Gary Moore songs. Even though now I listen to it and I'm like, oh, those are fake drums. But no, I'm just... And Johnny Boy, this album, relatively speaking, should be in like the top fucking 5, but it's not. And purely because of the fake drums, and it's kind of poppy. Like, you know, you don't notice it. This was supposed to be after he came back from visiting Belfast. He wrote this album. Over the Hills and Far Away is fucking amazing. Over the hills and far away. For 10 long years he'll count the days. So the guy is arrested because they found his pistol for a robbery, and he's like, oh shit, well his alibi is he's banging his best friend's wife, so he can't say that he's banging his best friend's wife, so he goes to fucking prison for 10 years. Back in her arms again he'll be, over the hills and far away. Whoa. Oh, fuck, that rip. Yngwie fucking ripped off fucking Yngwie. Listen to Facing the Animal. He fucking straight rips that fucking... I thought Gary Moore was guessing on that fucking album. It had Cozy Powell on it, so I was like, oh, fuck, did Gary Moore play on this? No, he did not. In fact, it's not even credited. Yngwie wrote it, right? Gary Moore ripped it off. Right. Johnny Boy, it's cool. It's got some Celtic stuff going on, but the next album was way more Celtic than this album was. I don't know what happened with this album. I don't know why there was no fucking drummer. I don't know. It's weird. Well, I know this was dedicated to Phil Lynott because Phil Lynott died in 86. I want to say in January of 86. Boom, boom. Let's double fucking check that. Yeah, it was January 86. I remember that. I remember seeing the picture with Lemmy's at his funeral. So there was some turmoil, and that could have added to this album, I guess. It was dedicated to Philip Lynott. It said for Phil. But I don't know if Gary, you know, I don't know. That was one of his best friends, and they had written a lot of music together over the years, and they were really close. And so I don't know that affected this album. I just don't understand why there was no fucking drummer. It's like, dude, Gary, you have a fucking list of fucking drummers you can fucking call in, you know, like a list, dude. Ian Pace played on Victims of the Future. Like, come on, man. Brian Downey, Simon Phillips played on fucking, Back on the Streets. So I'm just like, dude. Anyways, Over the Hills and Far Away probably pushes this up higher than it should be. Because I fucking love that song. I really do. So, number 8, Wild Frontier from 1987. I remember listening to the fuck out of this album when I was a kid. He does Friday on My Mind by the Easy Beats. And we all know the Easy Beats is Angus and Malcolm's older brother, right? Was in the Easy Beats. George Young, right? George Young was in the Easy Beats, and they do the cover of it, and I don't even like it. It wasn't even that awesome. Thunder Rising's kind of okay, but this album had a lot of keyboards in it. Like, I wanted to love the title song Wild Frontier, but it's okay. It's like, it's cool, but it's not fucking stellar. Over the Hills and Far Away is fucking stellar. Just because of the guitar work on it is fucking stellar. And then Johnny Boy is fucking great. So yeah, that's number fucking 8. Number 7. This almost should be higher. It really should, but I would almost swap this with some, and I did. It was hard doing this list. If you look at it, you can see all the cross-outs and shit that I did because I was like, that album. Well, that album. Ooh. Number 7 is going to be Still Got the Blues from 1990. It's a fucking great album. For being a fucking blues album, it's a great fucking album. Opens up with Moving On, and as soon as it opens up, man, Gary's fucking guitar tone on this fucking album, man, it's so good. He's sitting on the cover, he's sitting in his bedroom, he's got the big Jimi Hendrix poster on the wall. He does Oh Pretty Woman, and not the Roy Orbison song called Oh Pretty Woman, and Albert King plays on that. Walking by Myself, Still Got the Blues, the fucking title track. Texas Strut. Yeah. Too Tired with Albert Collins, fucking great. King of the Blues. This is a fucking great album. The bonus tracks, he does a song, and it's a George Harrison song called That Kind of Woman. And George Harrison plays on it. And that's a fucking cool song. What a trip, man. Fucking playing with George Harrison from the fucking Beatles. This is a fucking stellar album. And this is, like I said, this is the highest selling album in America for Gary Moore's entire career. And I think the highest charting album in America. It went gold. So that seemed like a winner. And he kept on with the blues because he was like, well, fuck, I love playing the blues and it's fucking successful in America, so win-win, right? And then no. Number 6. I know a lot of old school Gary Moore fans are gonna be like, what? I'm gonna go Corridors of Power from 1982, number 6. I listened to the fuck out of this album when I was a kid. It just doesn't resonate as much with me as some of these other albums ahead of it. I know people are like thinking that's 1982 is classic fucking Gary Moore fucking solo fucking album. Corridors of Power, dude. Come on. It's got End of the World on it, which I love, And what? Jack Bruce sings on that, doesn't he? I'm pretty sure Jack Bruce sings on that. It's the end of the world. Boom, 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 boom. Co-lead vocals on track number 6, which is End of the World. Yeah, Jack Bruce from Cream, right? From Bruce Baker Moore. He sings on End of the World. That's a great fucking song. Rockin' Every Night's a great fucking song. Cold Hearted's a great fucking song. I like Don't Take Me for a Loser. And Wishing Well. I mean, these are all staple tracks that Gary played forever, dude. These were all like staple tracks that were in his fucking set list. It's just that I love a lot of these songs, like Gonna Break My Heart Again and Always Gonna Leave You, Falling in Love with You. Like those tracks, they're all right. And then like the bonus tracks on my version are, Can't Wait Till Tomorrow, Falling in Love with You remix, and then another remix, and then something else. Love can make a fool of you. Just to me, personally, probably one of my lesser least favorite early rock Gary Moore albums, Corridors of Power. Um, this is after his stint in Lizzie, right? Yeah. It's after his stint in Lizzie again, and it'd been 4 years since Back on the Street, so Corridors of Power '82, not really a big success out here. Probably in the import section. I'm sure. I'm sure it had a different cover than the one I got. I can't remember the American cover versus the. They all had different covers. I like the one for Victims of the Future with the busted up building on fire. That was the American version instead of just that triangle. Um, Corridors of Power. I remember. Yeah, it was like a live shot. I have the one where Gary's standing in the corridor, like the original. I always put the original album covers on, but even though the other one was probably better. But Corridors of Power, man, it's not a bad album. I'm not saying it's a bad album. I'm just saying it's not. It's in the top 6, so it's still pretty high, but it's not my favorite of the rock era fucking Gary Moore albums. So, number 5, we're going to go to 1978. We're going to go Back on the Streets. Back on the Streets, right? Gary's getting out of prison. He's walking out with his guitar case, and some chick is standing there, and then Bobby's behind him going, and Gary might have been in prison. I don't know. I know the scars on his face were from a broken bottle in a bar fight when some fucking dudes were talking shit to his girlfriend. He got in a fight with them, and they broke a bottle and cut his fucking face all up. Crazy, right? Yeah, Gary. Yeah. Not adverse to getting into a bar brawl. Back on the Streets, fucking great song. Flight of the Snow Moose, it's fucking weird, but it's fucking good, man. That's the thing about Gary is even when he went off on this either a bluesy tangent or a kind of a jazzy tangent or a kind of a proggy tangent, you're listening to his playing and it's fucking gorgeous. Yeah. Hurricane. What Would You Rather Be or a Wasp is fucking great, and Paracine Walkways, which is fucking Gary Moore's most popular song ever, right? Yeah, Phil Lynott played on this album, right? Brian Downey played on this album. Simon Phillips also played drums on this album. Don Airey from Coliseum 2 and Ozzy played on this album. Yeah, this is a fucking good album, man. It's kind of a little bit all over the place. Song for Dawn is kind of boring to me. It is kind of boring. Don't Believe a Word. I think that was a Phil Lynott song, right? Or was that Fanatical Fascists? Song called Fanatical Fascists on here. One of those was Phil Lynott's song. Oh yeah, dude. Yeah. Yeah, the Corridors of Power one. That was the tape. I think that was the tape that no. I want to say Victims of the Future was the tape George gave me. Because I remember that cover with the burning fucking building. But I remember Corridors of Power. I think George had the album of that with the fucking live picture of Gary on the cover. And that purple light. It's fucking awesome. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, Phil wrote both of them, actually. Don't Believe a Word and Fanatical Fascists were written by Phil Lynott. Yeah. And then Paracine Walkways was written by Gary and Phil. So, it's a fucking cool album. For 1978, Gary was kind of MIA, because a lot of people, it was the 70s, so I was a little kid, so, but Coliseum 2 was probably not on a lot of people's listening fucking turntables here in America. I know my dad didn't have War Dance or Strange Kind of Flesh or... Yeah, pretty sure. I don't remember him popping off Strange New Flesh. It's weird. My chair was vibrating. Ooh. It's like, is there an earthquake? That'd be fucked up. Maybe it's just I'm sitting on it weird. I don't know. Anyways, yeah. So for Gary to he did the Gary Moore band. Nobody noticed that. Maybe in the UK, but nobody noticed that. The album wasn't successful. Skid Row wasn't successful. Coliseum in Strange Circles was probably successful, but then Gary comes out with this, and he gets Parisian Walkways, which is a hit. And this album's fucking cool, man. I fucking dig it. So that was number 5, Back on the Street from 1978. Number 4 is probably the first album I ever listened to Gary Moore. That's going to be 1983, Victim of the Future. 2 albums came out in 83. One was Dirty Fingers, which was recorded in 80, actually, and didn't come out until years later. But Victim of the Future, right? 1983, Victim of the Future. It's got the title track. It's got Teenage Idol. It's got Shape of Things, the Yardbirds cover, which is really fucking good. And Gary played the fuck out of that forever in his set list. It's got the original Empty Rooms, which is fucking great. It's got Murder in the Skies, where the Russians shot down. When I was a kid, the Russians shot down a fucking Korean airliner that made a mistake. It was flying by Alaska or something and made a mistake. And the fucking Russians just shot the motherfucker down. Because they claimed, Americans were doing spy missions at the same time and they were using the plane as a distraction or some shit. So they just murdered 267 people or some shit like that. Just blew them up. I remember seeing the things where there was bodies floating in the water and shit. It just fucking blew them up with a fucking air-to-air missile. Crazy. So Gary wrote a fucking song about it. He was fucking outraged. Gary liked to be outraged. And then Law of the Jungle. This is a fucking great album. This is fucking, and I'm pretty sure it was this album. He did not like this album. Or later on. Later on, looking back, he was like, that's one of my pathetic attempts to make a rock album. And you're like, I would say Wild Frontier was probably more that album. Because you couldn't shell out money for a fucking drummer, Gary. Come on, buddy. I don't know that it would have helped that album. That album had a lot of fucking Neil Carter fucking keyboard splashed all over it. So, anyways, Victim of the Future, man. That's a classic album. I remember that was the tape that George gave me. I remember listening to that. It had that little cover. I'll put it up here with the, structure of the building. Gary Moore, Victims of the Future. Yeah. The shape of things to come. Yeah, right? That's a great fucking album. Number 4, 1983. Number 3. This is the album that Wild Frontier should have been, but it wasn't. So, After the War from 1989 is going to be number 3. This album is fucking glorious. It's number 3. It's Celtic. It's got Ozzy on here. Ozzy sings a song on this album that he does backing vocals. It's got Cozy Powell on fucking drums. It's got Bob Daisley. It's got Neil Carter. It's got Simon Phillips on 2 songs. So the pedigree for this album is what kind of the pedigree should have been on the previous album. But like I said, that was right after the death of Phil Lynott. So we'll give Wild Frontiers a pass for that, even though it was dedicated to Phil. So this album is fucking glorious. I love this fucking album. I want to say Don Airey plays on this too, right? I believe he does on The Messiah Will Come Again, if I'm not mistaken. Do do do. Boom, 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 ba-dum, boom. Yeah. He plays on 3 songs. Lawrence Coley plays on The Messiah Will Come Again. Simon Phillips plays drums on Speak for Yourself and Blood of Emeralds. Brian Downey plays drums on Emerald. Oh, that's the Thin Lizzy cover. Cozy Powell on drums. Oh yeah, I fucking love this album. This album's fucking great. This is a fucking Celtic Gary Moore fucking album, and I fucking love it. Starts off with Delunce Part 1, and then it goes into After the War is fucking great. It's got Speak for Yourself. It's got Ozzy singing backing vocals on it. It's got Lead Clones, which is funny. They're just totally talking shit about fucking Kingdom Come. I don't want to hear no more Lead Clones. Like, and then he's like, you know. It's got the fucking glorious fucking The Messiah Will Come Again. It's got this thing called Love, which is a fucking great song. It's got Blood of Emeralds, which is fucking amazing. And then it's got Done Loose Part 2. I said Deluxe, right? It's Done Loose, right? Done Loose Part 2. Done Loose Part 1 and Done Loose Part 2. Those are the opening and closing tracks. This fucking album is fucking awesome. This is an album where I'm like, dude, I want to listen to some Irish music right now. Oh, fuck, pop on After the War. I mean, seriously. Pop on After the War. Is my hat crooked? It's hard to say. Does my hat look crooked? I'm doing the Chris Allo today. I'll just be like, dude, this fucking album is fucking garbage bullshit. I was like, what the fuck? Seriously? Anyway, I love Chris Allo. He's fucking awesome. He just fucking says what's on his mind. Fuck yeah, Chris. You are my hero. After the War, number 3. It's fucking great. Fucking love it. Gary Moore at the fucking height of his powers. And this is right before he does Still Got the Blues. So, yes. Boom. Number 2. Now, you know how I always talk about nostalgia. Nostalgia plays a part in what we love, right? Well, Run for Cover is number 2 from 1985. Number 2. The reason why is because that was the album that I bought with my own money. That was probably the first Gary Moore album that I actually purchased myself. I was 15, right? Fuck, dude. I played the shit out of this album. I just fucking loved it, man, because it was so fucking good. But at the same time, years later when I listened to it and revisit it, is it as good as it was when I loved it as a kid? There's probably 4 songs that I would say are good, really good, but not great. And then the rest of the songs are great, and some of them are my absolute fucking favorite songs by Gary Moore. So that's why Run for Cover is number 2, because it actually there's 3 songs on here that are 3 of my absolute fucking favorite Gary Moore songs of all time. So, with that being said, Run for Cover, the fucking title track, it's a great fucking song. Reach for the Sky, that's a great fucking song. It's got fucking Military Man on it. I fucking love Military Man. I do. I can remember the first time I heard that fucking song, and I played the fuck out of it, and I was like, why do I fucking love that song? You know, it's got the military fucking drum. And then Phil Lynott fucking sings it. Mama, take a look at your boy, he's a military man. Mama, take a look at your boy, he's dying. Mama, take a look at your boy, he's a military man. Mama, take a look at your boy. He's fighting. Right? They have trained your boy to kill. It's fucking such a great song. And it gets all weird and one day I will write for you a love song, mama. That is a fucking stellar song. It's one of my favorite Phil Lynott songs. One of my favorite fucking Gary Moore songs. It's one of my favorite songs. So love that. Empty Rooms. It's kind of a redo from Victims of the Future, but it's still a fucking great fucking song. Out in the Fields. One of my absolute fucking favorite. One of my favorite fucking Gary Moore songs. It's fucking great. Out in the Fields. Oh, man. One of those where it's like a flag never stopped a bullet from a gun. You know? And then number 9 on that is All Messed Up and No Place to Go. Little fucking Glenn Hughes, right? All messed up and no place to go. Glenn Hughes sang on 1, 2, 3, 4. Glenn Hughes sang on 4 of these fucking songs. This is the second time Gary worked with Glenn Hughes, though. I believe he worked with him in G-Force before they fired his ass. Glenn Hughes, this is 85, so Glenn's probably coked out of his fucking mind. So all messed up and no place to go. That was probably like Glenn's fucking autobiographical song. He didn't write it though. I think Gary wrote it, didn't he? Gary Moore and Neil Carter wrote that fucking song. This is a fucking great album, dude. And it was one of my childhood albums, one of my teenage albums that I love. And it still ranks number 2. It does. Fucking love it. So number 1, what is it? It's fucking Dirty Fingers. Now, here's an album that Jet Records recorded in 1980 with Tommy Aldridge. See, Tommy Aldridge was hanging around Jet Records, right? Uh-huh. Ended up going into Ozzy. Jimmy Bain played bass on this album. And Don Airey played keyboard. So a lot of Ozzy affiliations on the same, record label that fucking Ozzy was on. Dirty Fingers was recorded in 80. It was supposed to be released, but then Gary went into G-Force and they decided, well, fuck it, we'll put out G-Force instead of Dirty Fingers. So Dirty Fingers got shuffled around and kicked around. I think it came out in Japan in like 82 or 83. I never knew what the fuck this was until I discovered it like years ago. I can't even remember what my first copy was. It was probably like an import or some shit. But I was like, Gary Moore, what is that? Fucking Dirty Fingers? And then I know a lot of people, Vivian Campbell. I know a lot of people fucking love fucking Dirty Fingers. It's my favorite Gary Moore album. Just because from top to bottom, it's fucking solid all the way through. And I have a lot of love for a lot of these albums. But Dirty Fingers, it's got Hiroshima. It's got the little solo fucking Dirty Fingers, little fucking live solo. It's fucking awesome. It's got Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood. Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood, right? It's got Run to Your Mama. It's fucking awesome. It's got Nuclear Attack, which was on the Greg Lake album, but Gary decided to put it on this album. It's got Really Gonna Rock Tonight. It's got Lonely Nights. It's got Kidnapped and Rest in Peace, too, and it's got Bad News. But those are my favorite songs. Hiroshima and fucking Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood are like 2 more of my favorite Gary Moore songs of all time. Top to bottom, Tommy Aldridge sounds great on this album. This is a great album. And this was one of those albums that kind of got lost in translation because Jet Records were a bunch of fuck sticks. Don Arden, Sharon Osbourne's dad, was you know, shuffling shit around. This album got shelved so they could put out G-Force. So there you have it. That's my Gary Moore solo albums ranked. Number 18 was Dark Days in Paradise from 1997. Number 17 was A Different Beat from 1999. Number 16 was How Blue Can You Get from 2021, 10 years after Gary passed away. Number 15 was Close As You Get from 2007. 14 was Blues for Greenie from 1995. No Green Manalishi? Come on, Gary. Put on Green Manalishi. That would have been hot. Number 13 was Old New Ballad Blues from 2006. Number 12 was Back to the Blues from 2001. Number 11 was Power of the Blues from 2004. Number 10 was After Hours from what? 1999, right? Yeah. Number 9 was Bad For You Baby from 2008, the final Gary Moore album while he was alive. Or, you know. Number 8 was Wild Frontier from 1987, the album dedicated to Phil Lynott, with no drums on it, just fake drums. I think the guy from Reflex is the one that programmed the drums, I want to say. Number 7, Still Got the Blues from 1990. Like I said, I'm not a huge blues fan, but fucking listen to the tone on that album that Gary gets. It's fucking amazing. Number 6 is Corridors of Power from 1982 with End of the World. Number 5 is Back on the Streets from 1978 with Parisian Walkways, right? Ooh. Otherwise known, in my opinion, it's Parisian Walkways, but it's Parisian Walkways. Yeah. Number 4 is Victims of the Future from 1983 with Murder in the Skies. They were flying to Korea, you know, and then they got blown up by the Russian fuckers. Number 3 was After the War. Like, that could almost be number 1, really, it could, but. Number 2 is Run for Cover with fucking military. Mama, take a look at your boy. Yeah. He's frightened. Oh. And then number 1 is Dirty Fingers from 1983, but it's also from like 1980 or 81, you know. So that's the Gary Moore albums. Definitely check out his fucking discography. I mean, I would definitely recommend Grinding Stone. It's a fucking cool listen. It's got some fucking trippy ass shit on it. I really like fucking G-Force. G-Force had some great fucking songs. White Knuckles Rockin' and Rollin' on it. Had She's Got You. Had Because of Your Love. You Kissed Me Sweetly. It had fucking Dancing, which is cool. It's got some saxophone on it. It's a fucking cool album. Jet Records, 1980, G-Force. You can find it. It's so fucking easy to find. There's a million compilations. Like, I have the live King Biscuit Flower Hour with Greg Lake. That's pretty cool. They do Nuclear Attack. There's a bunch of fucking live shit that I have. Most people remember We Want More from 1984. And this is on like the Victims of the Future tour. That's a great fucking one. But I also like Rockin' Every Night from Japan from 1983. That one's fucking good. And the one he did with Mick Jagger, We Want More Jagger, that's pretty cool. He does some fun stuff on there. There's a Live at Monsters of Rock one that came out in 2003. That one's pretty fucking awesome. And then there's a fucking Live at Montreux, which is like a 5-disc set, and it has like 5 complete shows that he played at Montreux, starting in 1990 and ending in 2001. That's fucking great. It's all blues, but it's fucking great. I have Gary live at the fucking Marquee from 1983, and that's fucking awesome because he does back on the streets, Run to Your Mama, Dancing, She's Got You, Parasite Walkways, You, Nuclear Attack, and Dallas Warhead. That's a fucking cool one. I got One Night in Dublin, a tribute to Phil Lynott. That one's fucking awesome, where Gary and his friends come out and pay tribute to Phil Lynott. The yeah, that one's cool. The Bruce Baker and Moore album, it's called Around the Next Stream. It's fucking cool. Definitely check that out. Mine has 17 fucking songs on it, so I think I have like the deluxe version. There's a fucking ton of fucking just like Gary Moore out there that you can fucking discover. So from Skid Row to Thin Lizzy, fucking Gary Moore band. Good God. My absolute favorite Thin Lizzy album is the one that Gary played on, and that's got to be Black Rose. Black Rose, a rock legend. That album is fucking great, dude. Oh my God. Toughest Street in Town. Fuck. Do Anything You Want to. S&M. Waiting for an alibi. You know. Sarah. Fucking Got to Give It Up. Get Out of Here. And Arosendub. Black Rose. A rock legend. It's fucking great. Go listen to some fucking Gary Moore. Right? I'm not going to do an album of the episode because there's enough out. If I was going to do an album of the episode, I would fucking do Black Rose, a rock legend. Maybe I'll do that. I don't know. Maybe.